Hey, wine mermaids. This is the Peace, Love, and Wine podcast, bringing you happy hour conversations with awesome women on self-care, sisterhood, and creative living to reduce stress and maximize joy. Life is short, so grab a glass and get ready to sip, sparkle, and make a splash. Make sure to visit peaceloveandwine.com and enter your email to receive VIP deals and get your free self-care download. Now, here's your wine sister hostess with the mostest, Tiffany Humfeld.
Hello, gorgeous. I'm so excited to bring you my interview with the beautiful Emeraude La Starr. She helped me reach my big goal of performing in Burlesque in 2019. I wanted to do that before the end of the year, and she helped me make it happen. So enjoy the interview.
Did I say it right? I said it wrong again, huh? Emeraude.
Emeraude.
Emeraude. That's the very French way to say it.
It is.
So, wow.
Tipsy Merlot.
Yes. Well, we're on the topic of names. Tell me a little bit about your burlesque name.
My burlesque name was inspired by my grandmother's favorite perfume. Cody, back in the day, made a very kind of powdery, soft-scented perfume called Emeraude. And I only knew my grandmother. I only had her for 8 years in my life.
Oh, wow.
But I remember distinctly the way that she smelled. And so it just kind of stuck with me. Emeraude is also the French pronunciation of emerald, which is my birthstone. I'm a May baby. And then I've always had an affinity for the stars and the planets and the moon, so I thought La Starr would be fun. And I think étoile was the French word for star was taken. So there's already an Emeraude étoile out there.
I was wondering, yes, why? Because I'm like, that is not the French word for star.
No.
Let's cheers and talk about the wine we're drinking tonight.
Cheers! I have a friend that comes to visit me at the market. She's a massage therapist, and she etched this glass for me and gifted it to me a couple of days ago. So I thought I would drink out of this is my real name, my legal name. But I'm drinking, so I live in Ramona, California, and it's a very up-and-coming wine destination. And in 2006, I think it was, we became an actual AVA, so an actual growing region for California wine. So I'm drinking one of my favorite whites. It's made by Chuparosa here in Ramona, and it's a Chenin Blanc 2017. It's very yummy.
Nice.
Yeah. What are you drinking?
I haven't had a lot of Chenin Blanc. Is it?
No.
Describe
it. They're hard to find, but I think they're making a comeback as far as varietals go here in California.
What's it like?
This is very, it's kind of buttery and a little bit floral. Okay. But it definitely has some fruit notes to it. It's not really light. It's more of a heavier wine for white. Yeah.
I love supporting and hearing about small wineries and going to them. I'd actually love to go wine tasting in Ramona at some point. I was thinking that could be fun.
I think that would be amazing, and you could stay at my vineyard too. Again, we could just make a whole weekend of it.
Yeah, that would be super fun. Then we could record another podcast too, in person.
Yes.
So the vineyard where you live, tell me about their production and whether they share their wine publicly or what goes on there.
Yeah, so I live at and manage the operations at Seahorse Vineyard, which is off of Pomo Road in Ramona. And the vineyard was established about 20 years ago, and they planted Syrah grapes. 2 years ago, we planted Cab Sauvignon. And so our Syrah grapes, we just grow. We grow and we sell the harvest to a local winery. And for the last, pretty much forever, the Syrah grapes have been harvested by and have gone to Pomo Valley Winery, which is another moonlighting job for me
Right.
at the tasting room. So Jennifer Lane, the owner and winemaker of Pomo Valley, she's the first female winemaker in San Diego County. They all go to her, and there's been some pretty awesome wines that have come out of our harvest. So it's really cool to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Yeah. How did you get interested in wine?
Moving up to Ramona, one thing, like, you can't not check out the wineries because they're amazing. Most of them are boutique. I think we have 2 or maybe 3 that are corporately owned, but all the wineries, the majority of them are all boutique wineries. So that means they're small batch. So it could be anywhere from 20 cases to 100 cases of wine each harvest season. And then when the wine's gone, it's gone. So it's not a lot of mass-produced wine, which usually means that the bottles are a little bit more expensive. They're $30 and upwards, but they're handcrafted, and there's something really special about that. So just being up here, that was a big part of it. I was a wine club member. I've been a wine club member of a couple different wineries for many years, but the first wine club that I joined was Pomo. And so I got to know Jennifer really well. And when I retired from commercial real estate, I was kind of going through this period of what the F am I going to do with my life? and kind of in a funk. My dad had passed away, and I was like, okay, this is a crappy year. So I was talking to her one day, and she goes, why don't you just come pour wine here? I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I want to. When you're down in the dumps, when you're depressed, nothing sounds great, So, but actually,
sounds good.
Yeah, it really kind of saved my life and pulled me out of my funk and got me more involved in the community of Ramona. So, of which I am proud to call myself an ambassador of this cute little town that we have. And it's just kind of gone on from there and evolved. It evolved into me living on a vineyard property and making some of my other dreams come true, like tiny home living and getting involved in the community in many other ways. So funny story. In 1997, when I was a senior in high school at Poway High, I was in the FFA, the Future Farmers of America group, and one of our assignments was to raise a animal, and like it would be a goat or a cow or something like that. But then at the end of the semester, you have to take your animal to auction, and I couldn't wrap my head around like raising a goat and then selling it, or a cow and selling it and probably turn into meat or a pig. So I refused the assignment. And our FFA ag teacher said, well, there's one other option. I could have you install the first grapevines at the high school, and
cool.
Her primary duty. So back in 1997, I wouldn't have known it back then because I wasn't drinking at 18, not legally anyway. but so I helped manage and install the first grapevines at Poway High, which is kind of cool. So it's like a little forecasting, I guess.
Yeah, it's super cool. Okay, I want to go back further though, like to all the pre-burlesque, pre-Ramona stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me what you were doing then. Tell everybody what you were doing, and then how you, I guess, what's your past life? How did you then discover burlesque?
Yeah. Great question. So I grew up always wanting to dance, and I had a younger brother. He's 3 years younger, who was awesome in sports. And my parents were, I grew up kind of middle class family. My parents both worked full time, and the weekends were really the only family time we had together. And back then, I think it was just hard for them to wrap their heads around, okay, we're going to take Sean, my brother, to soccer, and then you to dance. And so I ended up also in sports. So they would drop us off at the soccer field together, and they drop us off at the baseball field together. And it was great for him. For me, I'm not a competitive person, and I'd end up in a position like playing right field and softball and being bored out of my gourd and picking my nose. I'm very athletic, as it turns out. I'm a swimmer and diver and did very well with that, but I never liked competing. That just wasn't for me. I always wanted to dance. And so when I graduated high school and was putting myself through college, I realized that I needed some artistic balance in my life. And so I started taking dance classes I took dance classes at Culture Shock and Academy of Performing Arts, and I loved it. And it was exactly what I needed. And it was at 18, 19 years old, it was my first real dance training. But as it turns out, I was kind of a natural at that. And I feel like I excelled at it really quickly. And I joined like the Culture Shock hip hop troupe, which is pretty funny. I hope that there are no photos or videos of that. I realized how I've always kind of been a little bit of a ham.
I have to cut you off for a second. So you told me you said Culture Shock, and then the audio went all wacky.
Oh,
but I can hear you now. So
okay.
Start from Culture Shock.
So yeah, Culture Shock, and we did like these pop-up dance shows, like at Balboa Park and stuff like that. And I really also enjoyed theater, and I've always been a little bit of a ham bone. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I'm gonna take some theater classes. And by this time, I had already begun my career in commercial real estate, which is not what I went to college for, by the way. I went to college for holistic medicine. I practiced massage therapy for many years and was working toward getting my holistic health practitioner license. My parents weren't really on board with that. They're like, what kind of whack job career is that? So I ended up in commercial real estate and like needing that artistic offset again, that creative expression. So I took some theater courses, and which also included like commercial and TV acting, and I really liked it. It was so much fun. I got one gig out of it before I moved on to the next thing and kind of lost myself again and dove into my real estate career. But it was really cool.
What was the gig?
What's that?
What was the gig?
Oh, my first paid acting gig was this attorney here in San Diego was looking for actors to make an educational film about sexual harassment in the workplace. So funny. I remember at this point in time, I'm in real estate and have this professional job and everything. And the audition was they wanted a group of us to stand together and pretend like we're in an elevator. And so what do you do in an elevator? Normally nobody talks to each other. Like you're just like staring at the door and waiting for it to open. I thought that was the funniest thing but apparently I stared at a fake elevator door and pushed a button really well, and so I got the gig. So this video was for her to take with her as she traveled around. Different corporations, big corporations, would hire her to come in and train their employees on sexual harassment, like what not to do. Like,
right.
It's not okay to grab your coworker's ass, that kind of thing. So that was it, and I got to be the harasser, and I got to be the harassee. I never got a DVD or a CD of the video. It was waiting for me at the Actors Workshop studio where I actually took classes and stuff, but I never picked it up. So I'm sure it's floating around somewhere.
I just went to my dad's house, the house that I grew up in, and he had some VHS tapes that I wanted, and one of them was me being an extra on Boy Meets World, the TV show.
Oh, wow.
And another one was like an acrobatics competition I did when I was 20.
Oh,
and
wow.
I didn't know, actually, I still don't know if the tapes if they're there. So I just ordered Legacy Box to try to basically get them digitized.
Cool.
So I'm really excited to see, cross fingers, hopefully they'll turn out okay. So I got that and like a handful of other tapes that hopefully have my mom on them or something. So yeah, it would be fun you should totally get that tape if you can still.
I know. I thought about it over the years, reaching out just for shits and giggles. I thought it'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first show. But, I always enjoyed dance and theater, and there was a period in my life where I was separating from my husband and trying to figure out who I was again, knowing that I needed to get back into the arts somehow. I needed that balance again in my life. And one day I was joking with a girlfriend, and I was like, I should just be a stripper. Sure, they probably make pretty good money. And then maybe I could take a vacation one of these days. And she's like, you totally should. And I was like, I'm just kidding. And then it came up in a conversation not too long later. And I said something to my mom, and my mom was like, well, growing up, Bette Midler was one of your icons. And remember, she did Gypsy Rose Lee, maybe Burlesque. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And then I had another conversation. Really, this all happened like within 6 months with the same girlfriend. And she's like, you really should think about Burlesque. And I was like, really? Like, I don't know. I don't think I can do that because I have, I had so many body image issues. Mm-hmm. And really they're not issues now. It's not how I see them. But back then I was like, oh, I have stretch marks on my breasts, and I have, I'm overweight, and I have cellulite, and, I didn't feel good in my body. And I thought that, that perfect body that we're programmed growing up with, like whatever the teen magazine is telling us, or, all these different messages that we get growing up as little girls. Like I wasn't that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't that person, and I could not take my clothes off in front of people. So she's like, but no, this documentary just came out about this group of women up in Seattle, and they took a burlesque class, and it turned into this documentary, and we should watch it together. So we watched it together, and I was a little inspired, and like, maybe I'll consider it. And then I ended up 6 months or so later, there was a burlesque show in San Diego. And I had never been to one before, and a girlfriend said, well, why don't we go together, and we'll get a table, and we'll go to this show. And it was Sassy Stilettos. What was it called? Something, it was like rock or something like that. It was some kind of rock themed show, but it was a benefit for breast cancer. Okay. And so we ended up going to this burlesque show, and I was blown away. All the different styles and shapes and colors and just body types on stage. And all I remember, like, the energy from them feeling good and expressing themselves on stage just kind of penetrated into the audience. And I felt that. I saw Amber Ray, I saw Valentina, and Sassy performed, and so Ginger and Whiskey. And so I was really quite surprised at how amazing it felt, and let alone the entertaining part. Like, that was great. But I thought, this feels good. This feels good. This feels right. So after the show, I grabbed Ginger and whiskey, and I kind of saw her not backstage, but out front in the lobby of the venue. And I said, so how do I do this? And she's like, just come take a class. I was like, really? That's it? And at that point in time, there were a couple of classes being offered in San Diego, but I ended up taking some of Valentina's classes, and we quickly became friends. And then shortly thereafter, she started the Vaudeville Vixen troupe, and I became a part of that. And it's just snowballed into where I am now with teaching and producing, and it's been one of the most amazing opportunities ever. And I am no longer in real estate, and my life's shifted completely, but I'm so happy and I'm so fulfilled.
So awesome.
Yeah.
So are you working now at your moonlighting jobs to pay expenses, or is it more like you're just doing it to connect with humans, like kind of the reason you started doing it?
Yeah, that's so the PAMO, the tasting room diva position. That is just fun. I basically work for tips, and it's my fun money. And then I retired from real estate, and I had a pretty healthy savings account, and I have just kind of watched my spending to make sure I'm living within my means. But I left that job 4 years ago, and I'm 40 now. So I was like 36 at the time, and I was like, well, I can't like technically retire, and I didn't like leave the industry with benefits or anything like that. Like they gave me a severance check, and I was like, okay, peace out. But I did want to make sure that I have, that I'm contributing as a taxpayer in this society. And so I do have my job at the natural foods market, where I'm a supplements buyer, and basically run that department and the personal care department. And so that's a taxpayer job. And it's like 1/6 of what I was making annually before. Right. But at the end, like the money part of it doesn't really matter. I am not working 70-hour work weeks anymore, and I have a life, and I'm able to have relationships, and I'm able to spend 70% of my time on my artistic endeavors, which include burlesque and painting and being involved in the art community and winemaking and all that fun stuff. I make furniture too, so that's cool. Yeah.
Like woodworking?
Woodworking, yes. Yeah. It started back when my dad was still around. We decided, we took a trip up to Napa and Paso as a family, and we saw a couple little accessories and things for the home, like home decor that was made out of wine barrels. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I bet we could do that. And, I grew up with my dad woodworking all the time. That was kind of his like weekend thing. My mom always had honey-do lists for him. But I mean, he is an incredible woodworker. And so I learned a lot growing up. If I wanted to spend time with my dad, I would just go out to the garage and he'd show me how to do something. So, we're in Napa and we see this decor, and I'm like, oh, we could do this, but I would do this differently and we'd make this a little bit better. And he was kind of like, So he retired from the Navy as a civilian. And I said, just to kind of like keep you busy and maybe do something together, we could try making some of that furniture. And he's like, okay. So we started a family business. It's called The Dusty Oak. And I have a Facebook and Instagram page, but I do that. I've had to put it off because I've been building my tiny home for the last 2 years. So the Dusty Oak furniture and accessories and the lighting that I make has not been a higher priority. Getting a roof over my head has been a priority, but yes, I do that too.
That's awesome. And then I saw on your website, your painting, and tell the story about how you had no paintbrushes and what happened next.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny.
This sounds like an amazing burlesque routine, too.
It is, and it has been. I have done it twice. I would love to do it more. But usually when I talk to producers about it, they're like, all they can think about is the mess.
The mess, yeah.
And that's, you got to think about that. I mean, it's a thing. Like, there's a reason why they don't let a lot of glitter and confetti on stage. Like, it's a pain in the ass to clean up. And, if you don't lay out protective covering all over the stage and ensure the producer that it's going to be okay. It's kind of like, maybe not. But it's so funny because I'm in Michael's office right now, and I've given him 2 of my original paintings, and I want to.
Oh, yeah.
I know. So that's one of them.
Fun. That's
called Wild Night. And then this one is what it all started with. It's called Kitchen Floor. So the story behind that, I had moved into get that centered again. I had moved into like the cutest little studio apartment in Bankers Hill, San Diego. And it was after I divorced and was out on my own and found this great little place. It was like an old hotel that was converted into apartments. And it had like the old elevator lift where you had like a gate and then you had to pull the thing down. It was
I've never
really
seen
cool.
that in real life.
So like the most amazing studio apartment. And I had just moved in and was still unpacking boxes. And, like when you're kind of throwing things in boxes, I don't know about you, but when I've moved a lot in my life.
You're just trying to get the stuff in there.
Yeah, at some point you're just like, forget it. It's just all the little things are going to go in here. So all the little things went into one box, and I think my paints and my wine corkscrew went into the same box because I just didn't unpack them right away and couldn't find them. But I was feeling so good about being in my studio apartment, and I was within walking distance of one of the most amazing farmers markets that we have here in San Diego. It's in Little Italy, kind of downtown San Diego. So one Saturday morning, I walked down to the farmers market, and I just kind of spent my time and wandered and bought a couple little things, bought myself some flowers and walked back home. And it's a sunny day. And I felt so so free, one, and it was like turning the page to a new chapter in life. And I just was filled with so much joy. It was a really good day. And I was like, I want to paint. I just had a housewarming party, and one of my friends had, it's a kind of an intimate one because it was a studio apartment. There were about 10 women there, and one of them had purchased canvas for me, like a blank canvas, because she knew I liked to paint. And the canvas was just sitting there staring at me, and it's wide, and it's blank, and I'm like, oh, I need some color. I think I had just painted my apartment too. Like my colors have always been emerald green and like ballerina pink and black and like copper accents and brass accents and stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to paint this, and I'm looking around. I don't know where my brushes are. I'm going to have a couple things of the paint that I had used on my walls, which was the emerald green color and the ballerina pink. And I just remember having this like crazy need to paint something, but I didn't have my brushes. So I took the packaging, the plastic wrap off of the canvas, and I dropped it down on my kitchen floor. And my kitchen was maybe wall to wall, like 4x6. It was a really tiny kitchen. So the floor space was maybe 2x4. It was really small. So this canvas barely fit. And then I popped open the cans of paint, and I'm looking at the paint and the canvas, and I'm like, am I going to finger paint? What am I doing? I was like, it'd be really cool. I'm going to see what happens when I dip my elbow in this. What happens if I dip my boobs into it? What's it going to look like if I smear it on my ass and sit on it? And then, this is another kind of embarrassing part of the story, but I'm totally happy to share it.
Please do.
So it was just one of these moments of so much expression and joy that I was actually really turned on.
Uh-huh.
I was so turned on. So that painting that you saw right there.
Is that boobs and butt? On
the boobs and the butt? Yes, that is real boobs and real butt and probably some DNA in there. I'm going to say.
That's awesome.
Have a little wine.
All right, take a sip. Yeah. Pause. So, how long did that take? Because you have to kind of let things dry between.
Yeah.
So, now I know what was happening while you were waiting for the paint.
Right? So it actually didn't take long at all. Uh-oh. What happened? A window popped up. Hang on.
Okay.
No. It says my PC wants to restart.
Oh, no, not right now. We're busy.
Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry about that. Because I used wall paint, like acrylic paint that you would use in your home, it didn't take very long to dry at all. And then, it sat. I hung it in my studio apartment, and then I moved again a little while later, and I lived in a closet for a little while, and then I pulled it back out, and I touched it up a little bit because some of the paint had been damaged on the corners or it had gotten scratched, so I touched it up, and I put some silver foil leafing on it, and then I put a final coat, like a clear coat on it. And,
cool.
Did I sign it? I don't even know if I signed it. But anyway, yeah, so...
Check the back.
It was... just do a DNA test. You'll know. But, it dried really quickly, and it inspired future paintings. So... not all of those paintings I have anymore. I've done smaller ones and I've gifted them away, and I don't even know if they exist anymore, but I've kept these two originals, and my plan is to continue on with that. And what I would really like to do with them is have like a high quality image taken of them, and then I want to turn them into stationery.
Cool, like prints. That's awesome.
Yeah. I like writing letters, and I think it's kind of a lost art, and I think having stationery would be kind of cool. So, see?
Super fun. You should totally do it.
Yeah. And this, the body painting actually turned into a great opportunity this year. Ramona has a new art festival. It's called Animar, which is Ramona spelled backward. But I was able to, and it took a little bit of convincing to the board of the festival to allow me to guide a class in body painting. They were a little resistant because they were like, "Oh, you're gonna get naked, and it's a family-friendly event." But I promised them there's no nudity. But it was so cool, and it was one of the most talked about workshops at the festival. And so I was able to. What I did was I actually purchased non-toxic, eco-friendly, glow-in-the-dark paint.
Cool.
And I brought in black lights and had children from like 4 years old and adults up to 50 come to the class workshop, and I kind of explained what we were going to do, and I let the kids start in the center, and we worked our way out on this huge piece of canvas.
Oh, cool.
So it was a really cool opportunity to be able to get other people involved, and kids got to put their feet in the paint, and you know, everybody was experimenting with, what if I put my forearm into the paint and like lift it and make different patterns. And so it turned out to be a really cool piece. And so, and then, you know, with the black lights and everything, it's kind of fun and different. So it was neat.
Cool. I love collaborative art.
Me too.
Which kind of brings us back to burlesque,
Yeah.
right? Because it's oftentimes a collaborative effort.
Absolutely.
Artists. So I know at we alluded to it, you spoke a little bit about it, but at the show that we just did.
Yes. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And I have to give you mad props for coming down 6 weeks in a row every Saturday, one of them being your birthday Saturdays, and all the way from Long Beach to San Diego, in the backcountry of San Diego. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It was an amazing show, wasn't it?
It was. It was. Yeah, my first show.
How are you feeling?
You know, I think I need to journal, and I haven't done that yet. So that was Friday. This is Monday. In December 2018. It's funny, the event was Friday the 13th, which I wasn't sure how I felt about that, but you know, it was the opportunity. So I'm like, okay, it's lucky.
I think it's a lucky day.
So I'm still sort of sorting it all out, all the emotions of it. And I really appreciate that you are somebody who specifically is interested in giving, you know, newer performers an opportunity. So thank you so much for that.
Welcome. I think, you know, I remember starting out and feeling like maybe putting a lot of pressure on myself, but seeing other performers and, you know, not really comparing myself to them, but just not understanding and not really knowing how to navigate it. And so I remember those times, and, you know, when somebody's really interested in burlesque, I want to be there for them, and I want to answer questions, and I want to mentor and give tips and tricks. And I think that I always come at life from the abundance perspective versus or abundance mentality versus scarcity mentality. I think, you know, the adage, rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that there's a lot to share, and there's a lot to learn always as performers. And the more open and transparent we are with each other, I think it's better for the community as a whole. Yeah.
You posted something in the Facebook group for the class, an article about women supporting one another and how, you know, business women who have strong support network they often make more money and just do better overall. And I think there's a real opportunity in burlesque for that kind of support. I mean, we're all there bearing bodies, which in some ways is bearing your soul too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's who you are. It's who you are in that moment, and you're putting yourself out there for everyone. Yeah.
So you had alluded on stage before you introduced our group dance to the purpose and the healing that came through burlesque for you. And earlier you mentioned that, you know, body image challenges growing up and all that. Do you have any specific things you can talk about with regard to that kind of healing, or maybe how somebody else who is new to burlesque can seek that out too?
Yes. So I think, you know, I was really fortunate to find Valentina's classes. And Valentina is very big on just being positive and loving the body that you're in. And I'm so grateful for that. You know, there's not to participate in the arts, there's not a certain person you have to be, your body type or look or image. I think that's what makes art so wonderful. And just like the world in general, the more diversity we have, the better. So Valentina was really, really supportive in all of us on our journey, wherever we were, as far as our body image and sometimes self-confidence and self-worth goes. So she's a wonderful mentor in that regard. And she created the Vaudeville Vixen troupe. And I think being a part of a troupe, I think there were 8 of us to begin with initially. All of us, I was always the oldest one. So, there were gals in their 20s and I was in my 30s at the time, and now I'm 40. But we were all at different stages in our lives. And it was really, I'm more of a kick back and watch and kind of just be aware and conscious. And my observation was that some of the gals in their 20s were much more self-conscious about their bodies and often found themselves comparing their bodies to others and judging their bodies, based on whatever it was that their programming, their upbringing taught them.
Stars.
And so just observing that and being aware of what the chatter in my own head and what their heads was. I remember specifically one night after a dance, and one of the students said,
repeat that. It got.
Oh yeah, sure. She one of the students we were outside talking, and she said, I'm so tired of being fat, and I don't feel like I don't feel like I look pretty and sparkly and what everybody else is feeling. I'm not feeling that. And I remember saying to her, if you're judging yourself and you're saying this out loud, just be careful about what you say and the words that you use, because if you're judging yourself, you might be judging others also. And that's not what this is about. This is about accepting what is within yourself, accepting what is within others, and not shoulding yourself. That's what I call it. Right. I should be this. I should be that. So just speak gracefully is kind of what I said. And I was like, well, you're saying you're fat and overweight and not pretty or whatever, but I think I pointed to her girlfriend that was standing next to her. What do you think about her? She's like, well, she's beautiful. And she's, and I was like, okay, maybe look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you're beautiful too. And maybe you don't feel great right now. Maybe inside you just feel like, ugh. But be good to yourself and speak kindly. And I think that's probably one of my biggest takeaways is we have this chatter in our own heads. We have this judgment. We have this thing that we might feel like we need to be or want to be, but you just have to take a breath and pause and reflect and realize that where you are and what you are and how you look and how you feel, it's fleeting, like it's temporary. Right. And just be really patient and kind with yourself. I know what it's like not to feel good. I know what it's like to feel like literally feel bloated and disgusting on the inside. And I know what it's like to feel vibrant and light and free and all sparkly, so it's, I think we just have to use the right words and just be really easy on ourselves and gentle and be graceful with the words that we use and our attitude toward where we're all at on our journey. So we're all in different places,
right?
But
in life and in burlesque, right?
In life and in burlesque, absolutely. And I think that having a wonderful support system, whether it's a burlesque community or a spiritual group or family or good friends, being able to share openly and honestly with them and actually have them listen and not judge, listen and support, listen without having something to say is huge. So finding a really healthy community to be around is wonderful. And, that is one of the positive things about being with Valentina and the Vaudeville Vixens that's come out of this whole experience that I've been a part of for, I don't know, it's almost like, I think it's 5 years we've been together. It's pretty cool. And, troupe members have come and gone and we're all different ages, but we all relate to each other and have dealt with heavy, big life stuff together and on our own individually. But, we all support each other and there's like this unconditional love there for each other. So having that is really special. I think to get back to answering your question, just speaking kindly to ourselves, that trickles down to speaking kindly about others. Stop judging ourselves. We stop judging others. And then having a wonderful support community and a support group, whether it's in burlesque or whatever it is key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you did a really good job on the first class of sort of creating that space of like gentleness and kindness and connectedness. And I really appreciated that. Like I don't know that it was what I expected, although I was really open. I don't think I had a ton of expectations. I was just like, class and performance opportunity, I'm in. Because that's my goal, perform before the end of the year. So, but I was really like pleasantly surprised. Like I wanted to be there because you were the one teaching it. So, which I didn't know you until the first day, but it definitely, like, there's a soft spot in my heart for you. So,
oh, thank you. I'm so glad you were a part of this. Like, I enjoy being around a group of women, and there's a part of me, kind of maybe not so much a rebellious part of me, but like a instigator part of me that enjoys sharing something new and maybe opening up someone's mind or eyes or heart or whatever. And so I think we had a pretty friggin' awesome group of women that were just super open and really come from all different walks of life, right? Yeah. All different ages, all different body types, and some with kids, some without. And for everyone to really come together, I truly felt that support. And so thanks for, you're a huge contributor to that. I might have created the container for it, and but everyone there in the class was a participant in that, and so I'm glad you brought that up, and thank you. It's an honor for me to be able to create a safe space for women to express themselves and to try and communicate as much as I can. So there's like no major surprises or anything, but thank you for being open and receptive to that. It's important. And you can go and take a dance class anywhere, but this isn't just dance. yeah, it's a big part of it. And we did a lot of across the floor movements and, some technique, and we got to have some fun with movement, but it's so much more, especially in burlesque.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I am sort of, I don't want to say struggle, because I don't think that's the right word, but as I'm decompressing from Friday and reflecting and that sort of thing, I think my younger self and all my personal body image challenges, like, that's surfacing a little bit. And the funny thing was on Friday and right leading up to the event, like the couple days before, I was more concerned about like not fucking up the steps, about taking my clothes off, which was weird to me. But I felt like, it's going to look really bad. You can't improvise when you're with a group of people. And, like, if you're doing one thing and they're all doing something else, it looks really weird, So, and yet I still managed to have fun. So that was really important to me. And I think we all had fun. So
that's good. And that's the most important part, because yes, group choreography is tough. And you're right. There is no room for real improv, because it's kind of off a little bit. And that's probably one of the more challenging sides of being with a dance troupe, like Vaudeville Vixens, is like, you got to nail that choreography, especially when you get into submitting to festivals and traveling and like, being professional about it. Like, you got to commit. But a solo act, there's definitely more room for flexibility and playing around a bit. Nobody else knows the choreography except for you.
Hey, Mermaid, and any mermen and pirates who might be lurking around. Thank you so much for listening. If you've been enjoying the show, I'd love to invite you to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/peaceloveandwine. There you can find ways to support the show through our virtual tip jar / micro sponsorship and membership in the official Peace, Love, and Wine Club. You'll find different tiers with different benefits, such as getting your name in the show notes, getting a handwritten letter from yours truly, and getting a shout out on the podcast itself. Additionally, we are adding some fun tiers with my new Burlesque behind the scenes adventures, where you'll get access to photos, blog posts, and videos that will not be shown to the general public. So if any of that sounds like fun to you, if you've ever had a laugh or gained some wisdom or insight from the show, I'd appreciate if you could take the time to check us out over at Patreon and see if that's something that you might be open to participating in. As we get more founding patron members, we will add more fun things too, possibly things like virtual happy hours where we meet virtually and enjoy a drink and conversation together. So I'm curious to hear what you'd like to see. You can always email me, info@peaceloveandwine.com. And again, check it out in the show notes, patreon.com/peaceloveandwine.